Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're talking about how automakers are no longer building affordable cars and how this could in fact be the reason as to why used car prices are increasing. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money, the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. So Cox Automotive released this report talking about how luxury vehicles are now the norm. Now, the report itself is something that we've discussed on this channel several times, but they have this graph in the report that I find absolutely fascinating. And well, I think you guys can see where this is going judging by the graph. So the blue line on the graph is number of cars sold for under $25,000 brand new, and the green line is number of cars sold for over $60,000 brand new. And you guys can see how the blue line was originally higher than the green line, but the green line skyrocketed to the moon, and now the blue line is, well, going down by a massive amount. So the first data set comes from December of 2017, and the last data set comes from December of 2022. And what we've seen over the course of those 5 years is that the number of new vehicles sold for over $60,000 has increased by 163%. The number of new vehicles sold for under $25,000 has decreased by 78%. Just a huge explosion. And if we dive into the nitty gritty, in December of 2017, 7.8% of new vehicles sold had an MSRP of over $60,000. Whereas in December of 2022, 25.2% of new vehicles sold had an MSRP of over $60,000. I mean, again, it's a huge increase when you dive into the numbers. And if we look at the amount of models, this is where things get pretty crazy. So in December of 2017, 36 models had an MSRP of under $25,000. Whereas in December of 2022, only 10 models had an MSRP of under $25,000. So we went from a 13% market share to a 4% market share with under $25,000 cars from 2017 to 2022. And on top of that, subprime buyers went from having a market share of 13.9% in 2017 in terms of how many people were buying new cars that had subprime credit to, in 2022, only 5.2%. And so it really is, the new car market really is a market of those that have, because those that do not have, right, they don't have great credit, they don't, and generally people that don't have great credit usually don't have a lot of money. Well, they're not buying a new car anymore. And the last thing that I want to mention before I move on with this video is the fact that this trend is seeming to just continue as this current sales year progresses. Now, at the beginning of the video, I stated that this could be a reason as to why used car prices are actually currently increasing. And if we look back at the data, it actually makes logical sense. Because again, back in 2017, just teleport yourself back to 2017, if you wanted to purchase a car, just a car, for less than $25,000, you not only obviously had a bunch of pre-owned options to look at, you had a bunch of brand new options to look at as well. And so the chances of you as an individual purchasing a brand new car back in 2017 was much greater than it is today. And something that this report doesn't state that does need to be stated is the overall availability of cars back in 2017 was far greater than today. I mean, you look at the amount of new cars sold back in 2017, it was something like 17-ish million. Whereas today we are tracking to sell maybe 14, 15 million new cars. Like, just overall availability was much greater back in 2017. And so now if we fast forward back to the present, well, if you are that same buyer that wants to buy a car for under $25,000, you're pretty much forced to buy from the used car market because, well, new cars that are under $25,000 are very scarce. They're hard to come by. And a lot of times when you do happen to come by those cars, they're not actually under $25,000 because there are dealer markups on a lot of these cars that just make it so that they're outside of that price range. And so if we go to normal supply and demand market metrics, then it makes sense as to why these used car prices have not only, not declined as much as what we would think considering the massive increase in used car prices, but have started to increase in the short term. Yes, we have the spring selling season that is currently happening that is putting some upward pressure on the used car market. But at the same time, you have a very large group of people, subprime, buyers and just buyers that want more affordable vehicles that now are forced to look in the used car market if they want to buy a vehicle for under $25,000. And so naturally, since those people that would have purchased a new car back in 2017 are now purchasing used cars, of course the used cars are going to not only stay more expensive, but get even more expensive as time continues, because it looks like automakers are not only not trying to fill this gap, but they're doing the exact opposite. Like they're just like, okay, we'll just stop building those cars altogether and just keep building the more expensive ones. It's kind of ridiculous when you look at it, but that's just the trajectory of the market. And so it's too soon to tell exactly what this is going to do to the market long term. But, if I were a betting person, I would say that this is, probably going to continue to keep these used car prices high for the foreseeable future until automakers, come together and decide that they need to start building affordable cars again. And I think that this is something that automakers need to stop overlooking, because I feel like a lot of automakers have adopted the Wall Street mindset, the short-term Wall Street mindset of we need to be as profitable as possible in the short term, so then we can have, the highest stock price and please all of our shareholders. And it's like, wait a second. Selling cars is more than just, I understand they're for-profit companies, but it's more than just that. What the companies also need to do is build affordable cars to bring different demographics into their brand. Like young people, for example, right? Now, young people don't have money, right? The chances of a young person being able to afford a $50,000 car, that's next to none. But a sub $25,000 car, that is definitely a lot more reasonable for a young person. And so if you get these younger people into your brand because you sell affordable cars, then the chances of them buying from your brand when they're older, when they have a better career where they're making more money, increases exponentially. So yeah, in the short term, you might not be making a lot of money off this person, but in the long term, as an automaker, you would make substantially more money off them. So I think that automakers need to pull their heads out of their you-know-whats. They need to start building more affordable cars again and stop focusing so heavily on profits, especially with the current economic situation we're in. I'm telling you right now, if we had more Honda Civics, Toyota Corollas, Ford Mavericks, you name, whatever affordable car, you name it, they would sell out amazingly well. And frankly, this would get rid of a lot of the dealer markups that we're currently seeing on those vehicles. So let me know what you guys think about this information, especially considering the data set that we went over, because I find that absolutely fascinating in terms of the amount of cars going for over $60,000 versus under $25,000. See ya.